Heyo, Breachers! Oh god, that sounded awful. Nope, that's not gonna be what people are gonna be called who play Breach. Welcome back, everyone, to a new Breach video, and today I wanted to discuss how a beginner would play the Arcane Mender and the skills that are available to the Arcane Mender, your prioritization, and the overall fluidity of playing the class in Breach, especially in a competitive scenario. So with that said, let's jump right into the abilities. The very first ability and the signature ability to the Arcane Mender is Mending Wave. This is the second skill and has a charge of 3, while its cooldown is 18 seconds. This is a really basic but potent heal, which allows you to heal all allies in front of you in a wave for about 400 health. This, to me, feels like it can be spammed too easily, and then you don't have it off cooldown, and when you need to heal people, you can't. So, something that I've had to learn as a beginner is to not spam it, or not to overly spam it, but keep in mind that it is very powerful, especially when you can line up all your allies in a single hit. The first ability for the Arcane Mender is known as Guardian Sprite. This applies a shield to your ally for, I think, 1,000 damage and increases bonus healing, or will grant bonus healing for the target affected by this sprite, meaning if you heal them with an ability, it'll do extra healing. This has a 20-second cooldown, so not too long, I'd say, but definitely enough of a cooldown for you to have to think about it strategically. Who are you going to place it on? Are you going to be placing it on someone who is going into the fray, such as a melee class, or are you going to save it when you realize someone is taking damage? These are all things that one might have to think about during the game. The second ability is known as Purification. It's the second key, and likewise to a Guardian Sprite, it has a 20-second cooldown. And I, at first, was like, what the hell is Purification? It doesn't seem overly useful. And then I realized the awesomeness that is this ability. What it does is it cleanses and makes your target ally, or yourself, immune to an ailment for 9 seconds. I did not know what to look for in terms of the UI. I didn't know what to look for when someone had an ailment on them. I didn't know if there were any signs. I was like, do I just have to physically see the character be slowed or stunned? No. If the health bar turns purple, that typically indicates that your ally is afflicted with an ailment, and you can use Purification to cleanse them of that ailment, and if you cleanse them of all ailments, their health bar will return to blue. So Purification is a great skill. Remember, you can use this on yourself as well if you're in a sticky situation. Sometimes prioritizing your own survival is better because you might be the only support. Your third ability is known as Transcendent Blast. This is your hard-hitting ability under certain circumstances. It doesn't have a cooldown, and it's your third ability. And what this means is that you deal damage depending on how many buffs you have of this Transcendent Blast. And the way to gain buffs is to cast successful heals. I don't know if Guardian Sprite and Purification count towards this buff. I'm uncertain because it doesn't deliberately say, but I think it does. I haven't specifically looked out for that in game, but I will now that I've risen the question. But how this works is that if you have 1 stack of Transcendent Blast, you'll do 300 damage. If you have 2 stacks, you'll do 550, 3 stacks, 900, 4 stacks, 1,350, and then 5 stacks, 1,900. So it ramps up through your healing. The more healing you do, the more damage you're going to be doing. And the final heal, or your ultimate, is known as Greater Heal. It's your 4th key, and it has 2 charges, which means you can accumulate ultimate charge and once it reaches 100%, it will save the charge, but will cool back, or will revert back down to 0%, and you can charge it up to 100% once more. And you heal a single target for a huge amount of health, 1,500. Remember, you can also use this on yourself. And there have been situations where I need to use this on myself because I don't want to die. And there have been some situations where I want to use this on an ally because I don't want them to die, and to make sure that we finish the dungeon. So those are the abilities for the Arcane Mender. Now I'm going to go into some of the traits that I am aware of off the top of my head, and go into some of the basic gameplay. Arcane Mender, you are an arcane... Oh, before I move on, I'd like to mention the Arcane Mender is in the Arcane School, which means that you can swap in and out certain arcane abilities when you reach certain levels. Now that we're done with the skills, let's move on to the gameplay. As an Arcane Mender, I love to stay behind, and I love to make sure I'm out of immense danger. I'm not afraid of getting into danger, and I'm not afraid to fight. However, I am cognizant that I am supposed to be keeping others alive, so I don't want to put myself in a kamikaze situation. So with that said, I tend to stay further away while having line of sight on all of my allies. There are certain areas or arenas where your line of sight might be limited, but make sure that you're moving around enough to keep an eye on all your allies. Use Guardian Sprite when you see someone close to dying, just to give them a shield, or use Guardian Sprite when you are first engaging in a battle, or rather in an objective. Use your Mending Wave carefully. Don't spam it, as I said before. And Purification, use when it's available, and use when you need to get yourself or an ally out. In terms of the objectives, when it's defeat enemies, I just pretty much auto attack and use Transcendent Blast when I find it to be most useful. When it is an objective where it's escort a drone or escort an item, I try to escort. I try to be in the circle in the ring to progress the objective, because ultimately the objective is the main focus. And when they are collect relics and transport them and drop them off in a certain location, that is when I come into play. Sometimes I let my allies deal with the enemies spawning, and then I will go around and collect the relics and drop them off, because I try to stay away from the focus of the Veil Demon and the focus of the enemy NPCs. So that is how I manage objectives. Now, throughout the game and throughout the match, you will gain traits, and I stick to my bread and butter survival, and my survival is dodging. So I pretty much take all the traits that enhance dodges in some way. I think the very first trait is you gain an extra charge on dodge, so I always end up with 3 dodges. I'll take the trait that means you gain a speed boost once you dodge, so I'll have 3 dodges plus a speed boost. And then I think my final dodge trait that I take is the trait that says if you dodge and then you dodge soon after, you won't take up a second charge. So in theory, you could have 6 total dodges. You just straight up double the amount of dodges. And I think that really helps me with survival. It doesn't make me worry if I'm going to run out of dodges. I feel much more at ease to use dodges when my gut tells me to. And I think for a beginner, taking the traits that affect dodges is wise. Taking traits that will boost you under certain situations, such as when you get knocked down, you get a shield, might not be in your control, but it's a nice passive that you don't necessarily have to think about. Another trait that I have been taking more often is the trait that allows you to double up on your damage. I don't know the precise wording of the trait, but it's whenever you attack, you'll do like a fragment of that damage once more. So in a sense, you have like a blur that comes after you. And I think on screen you can see this purple image of myself, and that indicates that there's a secondary attack happening. I take this because I feel like I have a lack of damage. And you might not think of it, but one way to support your allies is to make sure everything dies quickly. Because if there aren't any enemies to deal damage to you or your friends, you don't have to worry about healing. So that is one offensive trait that I like to take, just to make sure that we are getting through objectives in a timely manner. And I think it's smart if you would like to try it out. I haven't tried all the traits, so I can't comment on all of them, but these are the traits that I typically take. And other than that, have fun. Know that you are the life force of the team. There might be another support in your composition, which will definitely give you some ease, but I find the Arcane Mender to be a wonderful primary support. I do kind of feel like their signature ability, their Mending Wave, has kind of a long cast time because you can span it so quickly, but I can see why it can be strong. So everyone, I think that is my beginner's gameplay and guide for the Arcane Mender. Thank you for watching. Like the video if you liked it. Comment down below on your thoughts on the Arcane Mender if you've tried it out. If you haven't tried it out, give your thoughts on what you think about it from the gameplay behind, on screen. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye everyone. Take care. Mwah.